Hi, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com here at DevOps Enterprise Summit London 2016. And I'm here with Soren Pederson of Lego and a good friend of mine, Helen Beal of Ranger 4. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
So we were lucky to catch you before you got onto the main stage to present here today. And Helen, I loved the topic of your conversation. Why don't you tell our audience?
Sure, I'd love to. So we're talking about the correlations between DevOps and holacracy today. Some of you are probably wondering what holacracy is, so I'll give you a quick potted overview. Basically, it's an organizational operating system, if you like. One of the things or the patterns we've observed in the DevOps market is that when people go on their DevOps journey, they find that the culture part is difficult to address. So it's quite easy to build a CD toolchain, quite difficult to get people to consume it. So holacracy gives us a pragmatic approach to helping people change their culture in a way that allows them to proliferate that knowledge. It has lots of steps and some quite prescribed things, and it has a lot of outcomes that are very similar to DevOps.
Great. And is this a Ranger 4?
No, this is... it comes from a company called Holacracy One. There's a gentleman called Brian Robertson. So if you go on to TED Talks, you can find out the principles that have led to him develop this thing. He has actually, very interestingly, quite a heavy technology background. Mm-hmm. So there's things like if you want to look at the Holacracy manifesto, for example, it exists in Git. And if you can Git branch off it to make your own version of the manifesto. And there's some tooling and things that sit behind it.
Got it. And Bjorn, Lego is working with Ranger 4 along with this project, yes?
Yeah, we've done work in the past, yeah.
Okay. And give me so we've heard Helen's take on it.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
So we are in Lego on a journey to become more DevOps-minded and to get into the space of this rapid change mentality. And I'm very much a change agent. I drive a lot of stuff in that organization. And I find the whole concept of pushing power into the organization to the right points of decision is really a good idea. And that's really something we're working on, also in our past work.
Sure. So this is, I mean, and Helen, I know you've run into this as part of your Ranger 4 consulting, pushing it to the right points of the organization. Can you tell our audience a little bit when you say that, are you talking about at the executive decision-making level? Are you talking about it at the worker bee level who has to actually do these things? All of them, some of them?
Both of them. So I'm in the middle level layer of management and I have a few teams, and the point of getting the right minds in the right room and making them able to take the right decision for us is vastly more performance-wise oriented than pushing everything upwards, because then you become slow and you become staggered in your operations. And that's actually what we're trying to do, to enable people rather than making them pile up.
And just because you are now living this, would you say, what's more difficult, getting the people at the higher level to buy on and or is it do the lower level people resist?
So what I typically see is that it's both. So often you'd have to explain people at the lower levels, now you have the ability to act, actually. That's a big change in their mind. Usually they have perhaps been a bit restricted. And then you also have to explain top management that we're going to push this out because they're actually quite better. And that can be kind of hard to do in an organization where you're driven a bit by hierarchy.
Yep. And now, Helen, I know at Ranger 4 you're working with companies like Lego and other large organizations. Where do you find the greater resistance? Or is it both?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Soren. It's very much, it starts out very much as a grassroots movement, but there's definitely a bottom-up and a top-down that needs to happen. One of the interesting things that holacracy sets out to achieve is to flatten the hierarchy, which actually makes that easier to do because you've got less layers in between.
But sometimes when we talk about flattening the hierarchy, that's code for eliminating middle management, right? And no one likes to make themselves obsolete. How do you how do you feel about that, Helen? How do you deal with that?
So in holacracy, the management takes on a slightly different role. So instead of having command and control, they're actually kind of servant leaders. So they take on more of a coaching role. So they distribute some of their authority. So they allow people to make more decisions, but they are available to help steer the boat.
Excellent, excellent. How do and I know you spoke about DevOps and you spoke about Lego, but how do you feel about holacracy? Is that
Yep.
right pronunciation?
From a personal viewpoint, I think it's really excellent, and it's something we try to practice, because if I'm in the middle of everything, being a middle layer manager, I'll just obstruct my team from being the best they can be, and that's for me not the
sometimes it's
beneficial
just good
situation.
to get out of the way and let them get on with it.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Guys, for our audience, if they want to find out more about holacracy, I know you mentioned the fellow who started it. Do you have a website or anything that people can go to?
Yeah, Holacracy One is a good place to start, or come in to Range 4 and ask us about it. A great place to start is to have a taster workshop. So there are some prescribed ways to run certain types of meetings. So that shows you kind of how it feels to run a holacratic in a holacratic environment. So it's a great place to start.
It's probably easier to spell Ranger 4 than holacracy 1. RANGER number 4.
Yeah.
.com.
That's the one.
Okay, we'll take it from there. Well, guys, let me just quickly pivot a little bit to the DevOps Enterprise Summit here. Why did you feel compelled to present at the DevOps Enterprise Summit?
So I originally applied for the slot that we've got this afternoon, and was very keen for Soren to join me, which he was able to. So thank you very much, Soren, for coming along. What we've observed, and I think I touched on this earlier, is a great need in the DevOps environment to address culture. And people that were in the Barclays presentation this morning would have seen a big slide that said culture is huge. So I really wanted to bring something to the table around how to make pragmatic steps in a cultural change and bring holacracy to the table, because it has all these very common outputs that it shares with DevOps.
Got it. One last question. Maybe people watching this right now are thinking about, should they go to the next DevOps Enterprise Summit or any, DevOps Connect event or some other sort of DevOps? Why do you think it's important? So, Soren, I'm interested in your take.
From a company perspective and the daily work we have where we're really busy in all contexts, it's good to come out and see what's actually happening, what is everybody else doing in the business, and how are things progressing, and kind of measure yourself against that kind of progress to know, are you on the right track? Are you actually doing things that make sense in a wider context, and are you ahead of the game perhaps? That's quite interesting as well.
And you get that out of this?
I do, yes. And by presenting, I get the opportunity to kind of weigh where we are, see audience reflections, and catch up in that sense.
Fantastic. Yeah. Helen, what do you think? You obviously thrive in these environments.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing this kind of thing. And for me, one of the things I really enjoy about my job is getting to meet so many different people and hear so many different stories from so many different organisations. So being somewhere like this, I'm not engaged with all of these organisations, so it's great to hear their stories and as Soren says, kind of like go, yeah, that bit's good, that bit's working, and also hopefully find some new things out to take to the market as well and keep this momentum of this great change that DevOps is bringing moving forwards.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to call it a wrap because we've probably gone over our time. But Helen Beal, Ranger 4.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Soren Pederson, Lego. Thank you very much for being with us today. And thank you both for presenting at DevOps Enterprise Summit London 2016. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com.